Welcome to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower, where we do our best to give you useful information in 20 minutes or less. Now, here's your host, 5-time Voice Arts Awards nominee, David Brower.
Thanks, Alan. This is David Brower with your 20-minute podcast. Our special guest from Scottsville, Kentucky is Elizabeth Wood, and she is considered a world-class seer. She works on the cutting edge of galactic and quantum anthropology. With her lifelong ability to see into all dimensions of work with other dimensions of energy, her theoretical and psychic work has helped people all over the world, called Living Library, Oracle, and Wayshower. She has spent her whole life studying anthropological theory, quantum physics, ancient and modern medicine, and futurism. She has 2 science degrees, including a master's in applied anthropology. Her philosophies and practices bridge science and spirituality to support real change in the world. Elizabeth, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much. I really admire your work. It's really my honor.
Well, you're very kind. There's a lot of talk. I shouldn't say a lot of talk. There's talk from time to time about the conflicts, roadblocks, whatever you have between science and spirituality. They just don't seem to play nicely together sometimes.
Right.
Right. And so how do you work with that? How do you work with that to support real change in the world? Because to me, that's a big deal.
It is a big deal. It all starts with the body. I feel like even the scientific and the spiritual experience is a human experience.
Sure.
And the human experience has to do with, of course, us being in these beautiful organic bodies.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about being able to understand that each individual's experience is valuable. And sometimes those experiences are deeply mystical and spiritual. And so I want to help people reclaim the experience in the body in a different way, and to make sure that people know how to use their bodies, not only in a physical way to deal with trauma or heal, but in a way that's also mystical too.
Fascinating. How did you get started in this? Or did you wake up one day and go, yeah, let's do that?
I got started totally selfishly.
Good. I like selfishly. I'm all about that. Because seriously, so many guests I talk to, they come from this, and I don't demean this in any way, shape, or form, because Lord knows I've had my issues over the years, but it seems like some of the really interesting guests that I have come from a trauma background, right?
Yeah.
They've had some of this just craziness going on in their lives, and it makes me sad with some of them, but is what has helped them become who they are today, and they're able to pay things forward because of those experiences and all that. And so what was your selfish motivation?
Yeah, I would absolutely say it was partially that, but it's also because I see so much, and I see many, many things all at once. And so I wanted to know, what's going on with my brain? What is happening with my body? Am I really that strange? And I grew up,
What did you find out?
Absolutely. I found out that no, I'm not strange at all.
Good.
That every person is actually having a unique and often very psychic experience, and reclaiming the science.
We're too busy to even notice, right? I mean, sometimes we don't even know what we don't know, plus the fact we're going 7,000 miles an hour, and somebody stops and says, "Hey, was that a special moment that you just had?" Or, I don't know, man, I'm late for lunch. I got to go.
Exactly.
Right. So it's how do you help people tap into those kind of moments, I guess?
Well, I like to point to the body, of course, and that the human body is not just the brain running all of these organs,
right?
But that there's 3 brains. There's actually scientifically 3 brains. There's neurons in the heart and the gut.
I believe that. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And then they get connected by the vagus nerve, which is your core way to talk to your body.
Okay.
And that these 3 brains can actually speak to you, and they do. I mean, we have adages in our language, right? So people might say, my heart speaks to me about this, or my gut says this, and that's a clue.
My wife uses that gut expression with her kids all the time. If they're traveling in Alaska or Honduras or wherever they are across the state or across the world, they're going, I just trust my gut. My kid's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And that says so much. And so being able to use all 3 is very precious. But I've also been able to point out to people, look, the brain mind is very capable of perceiving multiple dimensions of energy. Recently, they actually found that the human brain makes structure at 11 dimensions, which actually means that we can perceive all those dimensions. We're literally built to perceive many layers of reality.
Wow.
And I think that that's the seat of what we call psychic ability, or deeper third eye intuition, or if we would like to call it deeper visualization.
There you go.
And the way we access it is the imagination. I think it's so interesting that we tell people, well, the imagination's not real. And I don't think that's true. I think that's the gateway through which perception is accessed.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And there's also people that believe there's no such thing as subconscious.
I think that's really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always fascinated to me. I'm going, seriously?
Right?
I mean, come on. I mean, if we don't have imagination, first and foremost, I mean, I don't know what we're doing with our lives. You know, it's like,
Oh, I agree.
man, it's like, I mean, everybody in simplistic terms, a lot of people talk about, okay, I got the left brain, I got the right brain. Nice. I'm happy for you. You can be creative with one side, you can be analytical with the other, but they don't talk about their heart. They don't talk about their gut, unless they're a mom.
Right.
Right. And then they talk about both those things. They could care less about the left and the right brain. They want to know about the heart and the gut. That's, so to get people to open up to just the basics of what you're talking about has got to be just a wonderful thing to do.
It's pretty fun because I get to show people quite quickly that your heart and your gut can talk to you. So if we could play a little game, I show people, look, the heart is where the seat of all your memory is. Everybody thinks your memory is in your brain, but actually the brain's pretty poor with memory. The heart doesn't really regenerate very much, hardly at all. And there's 3 things in your body that don't, and the heart is one of them. So your heart is actually with you through the entire length of your life. And it remembers everything. And I say that's the seat of feeling energy. So we might be able to see information and energy from the brain mind. And the heart can actually feel it and then speak to you about its experience.
You feel things in your heart. You don't feel things in your brain.
Right, exactly.
Right?
The brain reacts to what your heart feels.
Exactly. So that makes all the sense in the world to me. That's cool.
It's the first responder, right? Because it's creating a big electromagnetic field, which is, again, very measurable around you. And so it's bigger than your body. And so let's say somebody says something mean to you or something, you feel it blam in your heart first.
Right.
And then your brain reacts to it.
And the same way for a good comment, right? Somebody gives you praise and you go, oh, I'm embarrassed. Thank you very much. And or something, somebody said, this happens to me every once in a while. Somebody will say something just, I don't know what it is, but I'll just get the most amazing goosebumps about their comment. It'll speak to me in a way that I don't understand, but I feel it, I appreciate it, I react to it, I enjoy it. I don't know why, but it's sure fun,
Yeah, and that's the power of how smart the heart really is. And then, of course, there's the gut, which I say is the seat of intuition.
Yeah.
And so I always tell people, look, ask your heart and your gut regularly, just really obvious yes and no questions like, dear heart, do I love my wife or my husband? Or, dear heart, do I like to eat rocks? Right? And your heart's going to say no, but you can ask your gut.
Yes, come on.
Right? Exactly. I've actually had people say, why is my body saying yes to rocks? I'm like, maybe you need some minerals.
Oh, that's fun. But it's a wonderful game. Continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's a
no, I think it's a fun game. And you can ask your gut the same thing and you'll get an answer. Usually the heart will contract or the gut will contract if it says no. Or it'll feel open or excited if it says yes. And so that's a first really great fun trick to start to play with your 3 brains and noticing that they're actually talking to you all the time.
That's fascinating.
It's super fun.
Oh my gosh. So I'm bordering between goosebumps and speechless. So how did you come upon or study or learn or whatever about the three brains? Where did that all hit you from?
That's a good question. Well, one day I had studied the chakra system for a very long time, and I actually had taught over 100 classes about the chakra system. And one day I realized that I had been studying the golden ratio, and I found, oh my goodness, the golden ratio is in the human body every step of the way. And if that's true, then where is the root of 3? Where's that core of 3? And it dawned on me literally while I was sitting looking at ants one day. Yes, in my backyard.
Oh my God.
And I'm looking at these ants, and I'm like, well, there it is. There's the 3, a brain, a heart, and a gut.
Wow.
And so I started looking at my own body and realized, oh my goodness, I can see not only the 3, but the 6. So if you divide the body in half,
Right.
you can see the 6 on either side, your shoulder, your elbow, and your wrist.
Okay.
On either side, there's 6. And then there's going to be another set of 3 in the hands, which is the 9 part of 3, 6, 9 is the golden ratio.
Okay.
And then the lower part of the body, you have the hip, the knee, and the ankle. And then another set of 3 in the foot, too. And so there's the 3, the 6, and the 9 showing up very, very clearly. And so I thought, wonder if I could use this as a different way of functioning. It's easy for me to think of all these different chakras splitting the body up, but it actually felt better for me to think of the body with the 3 minds. So I started to use that concept and just test it out on myself to see how it felt.
You took it more out of, if I heard you right, you took it more out of the, I don't know, analytical thought process and put it more into the emotional thought process, I think.
Yes, and the reason is because the human interface always is going to start with that heart space.
There you go. Sure.
And so pointing out to people, the body makes this double torus of electromagnetic energy around it. And how can we really utilize that? Well, the human experience is an emotional experience and often very traumatic. So I'm curious, how do we make sure that an event doesn't turn into trauma in the first place?
Love that.
So, right? So I thought, wow, if I can start to use these 3 brains in a certain way and actually work with trauma more deeply, very systematically, making sure that each of those brains are noticed, are taken care of, then I can actually shift trauma faster. So I always experiment on myself first. Yeah. And I thought, well, it's fairly simple. I can hear all of the negative talk I might have in my head, right? And knowing that the brain mind acts very much like a computer, I realized that the brain mind doesn't actually tell the difference between a negative or a positive reaction very well. It just knows that you reacted. Right. So let's say somebody said something mean, right? It could easily turn into trauma. But in the brain mind, the brain mind might come up with something that'll reinforce that trauma. Like maybe someone says, I'm just going to say something random. Somebody says, well, you're really dumb.
Yeah.
and then my brain mind might have a negative program that says, yep, you're so stupid.
Right. Yeah, you're right. I believe that. Right.
Right. And so, because that might have been something that I've dealt with throughout my life is this common negative self-talk. So I call it a negative program. Well, what I learned is that if you actually don't react initially with your brain mind to that negative program, you can bow to it with gratitude. It acts like a neutralizer. It's like a pause button. So if reactions are a 1 and gratitude is a 0, binary. So if the brain is a computer and it works in binary, then we're not reacting. We're going to use gratitude to pause it, to separate ourselves from that negative self-talk. And I said, okay, well, when I'm using a computer, I go in and I'll make sure that I notice the program. And so that would be me saying, thank you for trying to help me. Whatever crazy thing just said was said in my brain, thanks for trying to help me. That separates me from the program. And then I say, I require you to erase now. That would be pushing the delete button.
Sure. No, that's right. Yeah.
And then I'd say, I'm the person in charge, or I'm the soul in charge. Again, it separates me from the program again. And then I tell it what I want to replace it with. So I might say, I have a different plan. My plan is to be happy and present in the moment, or something simple. But then the next piece, none of that can happen if you don't press the enter button.
Correct.
So the enter button is the breath. That tells the vagus nerve that this change is okay to be made. So you take a big, deep breath, and instantly in that moment, your brain will rewire. And it happens really fast.
So if you take, not to simplify it, but that's the way my brain works. So if you take self-talk, if you take breathing, if you take communicating with your brain, heart, and gut, and you throw in a dose of gratitude,
absolutely,
you got some stuff going on there.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
Yeah.
And especially for the brain mind with its habitual different varieties of negative self-talk, being able to bow to it, say thank you, it creates that pause.
It really does.
And then there's the dealing with the heart field. Because the heart field's like a big magnet. Humans are like lint rollers, and they just pick stuff up all over the place.
That's a visual. I can't unsee that now. Oh my God. That's really good, actually.
It turned out that when I was experimenting with my heart field, that if I actually talk to my heart as like a command center to that field, if I talk to my heart, that it'll do what I want it to do. So here's what I do, and I call them heart commands. I just love this. I'll say it in my head all the time. And all of this can be done privately in your head. You can be in the middle of your office, whatever. The only thing people are going to see is you taking a breath.
Right.
And so what I'll say is, dear heart, please shift any negative energy out of my body and field now. So I tell it what I want and when I want it, and then I take a big, deep breath, and then I will replace it because of physics, right? If you move something out of the way, you don't want it to just come right back. You need to replace it with something. The universe hates a void. So I'll say, dear heart, fill my whole body and field with joy right now. And then I'll take another deep breath. And it's amazing how fast the whole body will listen to you, because the heart is talking to all of your cells all the time with its electromagnetic field.
When you throw in gratitude, it holds everything in place.
It does. Gratitude is an incredible way that the witness can be in charge of this body experience.
Yeah. We're just about out of time, unfortunately, but I'm a big gratitude fan. In fact, I even have a gratitude tattoo, for crying out loud.
I love it.
But but I want to make sure people can reach out to you. I know seerandscientist.com is your website. I know just talking about some of the simple, for lack of a better term, exercises, games that we can play with ourselves. If we just pause long enough to give those three brains an opportunity to work with each other, man, that can be some life-changing stuff, whether it's trauma or joy or what have you. And so people want to reach out and visit with you, maybe have a one-on-one. How does that happen? How does that work?
Absolutely. On my website, if you go to offerings, you'll see all the updated classes, interactive ebooks, how to get one-on-ones with me. All of that's right there under offerings. And I have a community that I have that's free.
That's the circle, right?
If you sign up for emails, I meet once a month, usually at the end of the month, live together, and we just check in. We talk about what's going on. We get real. I'm very vulnerable and transparent. I think it's a superpower.
It is a superpower.
And I love just being with people. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
So again, if you go to Seer and Scientist, that's SEER, seerandscientist.com, and click on offerings, you'll learn all about sessions, workshops, community retreats, mentoring. You can scroll down and learn about the circle and the benefits of that community online, and New Earth Conversations with Elizabeth. And you can also check out her YouTube channel. In fact, if you just open up YouTube and type in Elizabeth Wood, you'll come up with about 100 different videos. And just put your toe in the water, man. There's some interesting stuff here that you need to pay attention to. And you have the authenticity and integrity to pull it off. Congratulations on what you do.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored.
Listen to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower on the go. Downloads are available on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, any podcast app, and on our website at davidbrowervo.com/your20-minute podcast. Until next time, thank you for listening.